I'm so excited because I feel like the past 3 years I've just seen Judaica blooming. I love doing it, and I hope I'm opening the doors for other people to do it because it's such a joyful thing to create, and everybody's so excited about it.
This is The Book of Life, a podcast about Jewish kidlit. I'm Heidi Rabinowitz. Before I tell you about today's episode, I just want to share some beautiful feedback I recently received from Selena Alco, one of our guests from the recent episode about the Keeper of Stories. Selena said, "Your podcast showcases incredible conversations around Jewish children's literature happening today. I learned so much after every episode and am so grateful this show exists." Selena left this amazing comment on the Book of Life Substack when she became a paid subscriber. Selena, thank you so much. I love you too. Now, let's talk about today's episode. If you've ever read books to a baby or a toddler, you're familiar with board books, those small, sturdy books with stiff cardboard pages that can withstand drool and rough handling. But just because these books are designed for babies doesn't mean they are babyish. Suzy Ultman's deceptively simple storytelling in board book format has brought about a historic moment. For the first time ever, a board book has won a Sidney Taylor Book Award. Among the 4 Jewish board books that Suzy has created so far, the one that got her the gold was Shabbat Shalom, Let's Rest and Reset. Her signature bright, quirky, cheerful art, paired with reassuring, calming text, invites us to stop all the doing and just be. If you need to give a baby gift, I highly recommend one or all of Suzy's Jewish board books. But you might actually want to get copies for yourself because they are like tiny mantras about Jewish concepts and Jewish pride. Get your show notes at bookoflifepodcast.substack.com. Now, let's hear from Suzy. Suzy Ultman, welcome to the Book of Life.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
So I want to start with something that you said on Instagram a few weeks ago. You posted, "Every morn before I get out of bed, I put my hand on my heart, take a few deep breaths, and pick a word or phrase for the day." So first of all, I love the mindfulness of this. And I think it really sets the tone for the books that we're going to be discussing. And secondly, I wanted to ask what word or phrase you picked most recently.
Recently, I keep coming back to be curious. It keeps me really open to whatever conversation I'm having. So I can get really up in my head and not be quite as present in conversations. So that word seems to really help me.
I love that. It's such a beautiful idea. So you've just made history because your book, Shabbat Shalom, Let's Rest and Reset, is the first board book ever to win the Sidney Taylor Book Award.
Yes.
So first of all, mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you.
Were you surprised when you learned that you had won?
I think the word I used was gobsmacked. I was completely surprised. I love working on board books. The approach to that age group and writing content for 0 to 5 really works well with the way that I visualize things and tell stories. So I really love it. Yeah, I was very, very surprised. And I'm very excited that steps like this will help open the door for other board book illustrators and writers because it is deceptively simple creating a board book. The message needs to be understood by a very young audience. And then for me, it's really important that the parents get something out of it too. If it feels like it's simple, then we've done our job. It's not easy. So for other people out there that love writing for board books and drawing for board books, I hope this kind of opens up the door for more recognition for that format.
Many Shabbat books for kids focus on the symbols, the challah, the candles. Your focus is revealed in the subtitle, Let's Rest and Reset. So how did you settle on this angle when you went to create a Shabbat book?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I pitched the series to Penguin, it was a 4-book series. It was somewhat mapped out. Like I knew Yiddish was going to be a book, and I knew that Shabbat was going to be a book. Mitzvahs kind of had an idea about that. As we started talking about Shabbat, kind of recognized that my experience with Judaism was my parents were both raised Orthodox. They raised us in like a conservative Jewish household. And then our synagogue was Reconstructionist. So I had like a lot of different Jewish traditions in front of me. I'm a very feeling person. So it makes a lot of sense that in my Jewish experience, I was picking up on how I was feeling. What I wanted to write about was a sense of my family coming together, actually seeing my parents. I could feel the week kind of melt away from them. I could see that as a kid. As soon as they sat down to the dinner table Friday night, we were with my grandparents, like everything melted away. And I felt that. That's what stuck with me. I know the prayer of the challah and the candles and the kiddush, and I know all of that stuff. But for me, it was the feeling. That's what I wanted to pass down to my kids. Conversations with my editor, she's Jewish as well. And she said, I think this is something really special and positive we can pass along to the next generation since people are so busy. Like this idea that whatever it looks like, no matter how much time you spend for your Shabbat practice, it's a valuable thing to talk about and look at and explore. So that's how we landed on it. We did talk about what it would mean to not have like all the religious specifics in it and if it could still hold as a book without, speaking to certain prayers and going to synagogue and whatnot. And at the end of the day, we felt like we had a good story in what we were telling and that it spoke to what Shabbat meant to me.
Yeah, well, people definitely agree with you because you just won the Sidney Taylor Book Award. So, yes, good job. This book is part of a series of board books on Jewish culture for very young children. But again, it's not the usual focus on just holidays. You've got books on mitzvot. You've got It's a Mitzvah. You've got I Like Your Chutzpah, which is about Yiddish vocabulary. And you've got a book about Jewish identity. How do you Jew? Which is a really unusual topic for such young children. How do you choose your topics?
They sort of evolved, but I did go in like with a very specific mission, which is that I wanted Jewish kids and families to feel that they were represented in their everyday life and not just, as I like to say, like on Hanukkah or the Holocaust. Like that there was this really big spectrum of experience and culture and tradition that lay like in our lives. And I wanted them to be able to see that every single day. I want them to see it around them. The books are in a library or their school or at a bookstore, that it's not just something that gets pulled out, for the holidays. And that's the one time you get to see yourself represented. So that was a large goal of mine. And then the other goal was to create conversation around the Jewish experience for us, for the Jewish community, and also to cross over like into other communities and have conversations about culture, tradition, identity, because unless we're speaking to them, we can't share that with other communities. How Do You Jew was not actually part of the original plan, but as we started moving through each book, it kind of like presented itself to us. It came out of a conversation talking about Passover, like the Exodus. And the more we were talking about that, I'm like, I think that there's something here as like a tribal community of people to speak to.
Okay, so just to make clear, it's not a Passover book.
It is not a Passover book. No, it is very much not a Passover book, but this idea of like Jews wandering and where they've wandered to. Jews live all over the world and have picked up many different traditions wherever they've gone to and have taken some with them and expressing that in a book. I kept asking my editor, I'm like, can we make this like a 24 spread board book? Because there are so many countries we couldn't include or traditions that we had to cut to make sure there's a certain amount of balance.
It's basically a diaspora board book.
Correct, yeah.
Which I think may be the first time that's ever been done.
Maybe.
Tell us about your artistic technique.
I spend a lot of time sketching. I love to get a pencil and paper and sketch. And then I scan it into the computer and I digitize it. So my favorite part is sketching. I love the feeling of a pencil or pen on a piece of paper. It makes me very happy. I used to cut out the Peanuts comics out of the newspaper, and then I would spend hours and hours drawing Snoopy and Charlie Brown. And I was thinking about like, oh my gosh, most of my characters have like very giant heads and small bodies. And I think it goes back to me drawing a lot of Peanuts. And the idea of really being able to get a really clear message through in the simplest form. A lot of the Peanuts comics are pretty loaded with emotion. And I don't think I understood that as a child, but I definitely think it was very informative. I grew up with Maurice Sendak and Shel Silverstein and all those great folks who really, I think, inspired my visual sensibility and my sense of storytelling, I think, and writing.
A review in Kveller described I Like Your Chutzpah as a trove of parenting wisdom. So, what did they mean by that? And was that your intention when you wrote the book?
It was, yeah. From my own parenting, I had a couple of aha moments with the kids when they were little around behaviors that were tricky or challenging or I didn't understand. And I recognized that as long as I just gave them space to have their feelings and to get curious about what was going on with them, everything seemed to go so much better than trying to like push back against it. So I think I Like Your Chutzpah is very much a reflection of that. The idea that all of these words call out different parts of a child. So like I like your schmutz, and there's a picture of a cat with ice cream on the cat. As parents, there can be so much going on that it's hard to just pause and be like, oh, that's okay. Like that's just part of being a kid. And I like that. So the book, everything is okay. Even kvetching is okay. Like it's all just part of being a kid and part of who you are. And the sum of all those parts is beautiful. Most of my books are social emotional books underneath.
Yeah, like you said before, board books are deceptively simple because
Yeah.
it's not that simple. It's got all these amazing levels and layers.
Yeah. Both of my kiddos are on the autism spectrum. So
Hmm.
when they were little, we spent a lot of time in physical therapy and speech therapy and occupational therapy. And I learned a lot from those times and how much you can do by just letting a kid move through something and being with them and being present and just letting them be who they are in that moment. So a lot of my storytelling comes from that space of just trying to keep things open and curious and as calm as one can be.
I think that's why your books sort of have a comforting feel to them because you are projecting this like very accepting vibe.
Oh, thank you.
These board books are just the last in a long line of your creative endeavors, from cards to toys to art supplies. Can you tell us about your general work as an artist and how the books fit in?
I think the books are the framework of the house that kind of hold everything up. And then the other pieces sort of fit in as like furniture, but they all work with each other, around each other, like in support of each other. I have like a certain mission statement inside of myself to tell my own stories, to give back to my younger self, to reflect and give back to the Jewish community. They can feel seen, and then also to build bridges between communities. So if I get a project, if it resonates with my kid self, I'm like, great. If it feels like it's something that can give back to the Jewish community, have them feel reflected and joyful about their lives, that's great. And then if it's something that can build bridges, perfect. So a lot of the projects do all three of those things. In terms of my other work, I really try to be thoughtful about the environment in the sense that since I'm making products, does this product need to be made? Are there other products like this in the market? If there are, am I able to bring something different to the table? It can get pretty tricky because caring about the environment and making things don't really go hand in hand.
Mm.
So I try to be as thoughtful about that as possible because I think it's more than just making it on like eco-friendly materials. I like to be thoughtful about how much I'm actually making and where it's going and what it's providing for this young generation that I'm making it for that's also growing up with these challenges.
I hear that you have been writing stories and making homemade toys since you were a young child. So I'm wondering how your work, besides skill level, how is your work different now from back then, and how is it still the same?
I'll start with the same. I always was really drawn to big feelings and then also fantasy. And I still love to live in those worlds. As I've gotten older, I've become more brave at sharing my own stories and not trying to hide behind a story that's easier to tell. I've gotten a little bit braver about sharing and more confident with that.
So when you say braver about sharing your own story, you're talking about Jewish identity?
I think a lot of the different sides of myself, parenting two kids on the spectrum, going through a divorce. My younger sister died 10 years ago. So now we can get into all the stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. When you've lived a certain amount of life, you gather all these stories. So I think I'm just more open and available to talking about that stuff if the situation calls for it, and the Jewish identity piece.
What led you to start embracing your Jewish identity in your work?
That's a good question. I was in graphic design for a lot of years, and then through a series of events, I ended up illustrating. And in the beginning of my illustration career, which is probably about 15 years ago now, kind of was like dipping my toe in it and like asking questions about making Jewish product. I felt like I was being told it's not going to be viable because the Jewish population is small. It's not going to make a lot of money. And then usually the time that you would do something for the Jewish population would be during the holidays, which again is a small window. So I sort of put it in the back of my head. And then during COVID, I had some time to really think about what the next chapter of my career was going to look like. And I really felt at the time one of the best things I could do for the author illustrator community was to stay as close to my story as possible because then I'm not taking up shelf space that belongs to somebody else. Because it isn't easy to get a book made. So if I have the privilege to do that, I don't want to take up shelf space from somebody else that needs to tell their story. So I felt like the Jewish piece of myself was something that I could talk about. And it did feel like it was needed because Jewish board books and even picture books at that point when I was thinking about things like hadn't really evolved to where they are today. And then my mom sent me this Rosh Hashanah card that was it was a photo of apples and honey, and it was so sad. It was so generic. And just as a designer, I was looking at it, I'm like, I know this is all my mom could find. It was so sweet that she sent it, but I'm like, I really need to do something. Like, I have the power to create something much nicer than this. And I think that the modern Jewish community deserves something better than this. So I think that was the thing that kind of tipped me into like, you can do this. You're just going to need to find people that are willing to partner with you to do it. So it's been an evolving, slow process of me sort of waking up to my own identity that I've always had, but that might be something that I could do.
I love that the thing that lit a fire for you was a boring, generic Rosh Hashanah card. That's great.
I'm so excited because I feel like the past 3 years I've just seen Judaica blooming. I love doing it, and I hope I'm opening the doors for other people to do it because it's such a joyful thing to create, and everybody's so excited about it.
So, sort of along these lines, you've got a new label within your brand, Suzala, for, quote, modern whimsical Judaica that comes from the heart. So tell us more about that.
Thank you. That was just a soft launch. I haven't really talked about Suzala that much. So Suzala was the name my grandmother called me, that it would be really fun to create a brand where I could really explore that and push myself to making my own products. I have a few that I've made. A lot of them have been made with other folks, like my cards are through Egg Press in Portland. So this is going to push me to make my own products and develop my own work in that area.
I believe you offer some online art classes. Is that right?
I do, yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's through Creative Bug. They're videos. Sustainable play for the everyday. So I love to work with like whatever we have in the house, whether it's like paper bags or cereal boxes. So every project, you should be able to make it with materials you have in your own house. That's the idea. So there's an alphabet project. There's a holiday class with Christmas and Hanukkah options. It was inspired by something that I did for my kids, trying to keep all the gifts organized. You can make little gift tag numbers for each night of Hanukkah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's Tikkun Olam time. What action would you like to call listeners to take to help heal the world?
I think that's so beautiful. So I have been speaking a lot to the Look for the Helpers quote by Mr. Rogers. I think that's really helped me this year because it can seem so broad and vast what needs to be done. And I think if you just look to your neighborhood, to your community, to what is needed. I think that's the best tikkun olam. That's what we try to do. So when we hear about something going on nationally or globally, we try to just like take a step back and look at who's in need here and where can we help. And I think that's been really grounding and really helpful because you can actually like connect with people. I've tried to teach the kids like it starts with you and then you put that out to your family and then you put it out to your neighbors and then your community and just builds outward. So I think working that way can make it feel less big and more connective. And it actually is really of service to work within your community and do something. So whether it's the food bank or the homeless shelter or the groups that are working with New Americans, anything like that.
Thank you. That's lovely. I'd actually like to make a tikkun olam suggestion as well. I want to make sure people know about democracy.io.
Ooh.
It's a tool that makes it super easy to email your congresspeople. You just put in your address, it finds your 2 senators and your 1 House rep, and then you can choose whether you want to email all of them or some of them, and then you just write whatever you want to write. But you don't have to like go to each website and look for their contact information and fill out a different form. It just lets you send a message to everybody at once. And I feel like it's really important because our members of Congress work for us.
Right.
And we need to let them know what we want them to do. And public pressure is the way to get Congress to actually affect change and defend our democracy. So democracy.io, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. I love that.
What are you working on next?
Oh my gosh. So in the fall, I have 2 books coming out. I've co-authored a book. My co-author is Amanda Kingloff called The Art of Jewish Joy. If you're old enough to remember like World Book encyclopedias, it's like that chunky size.
Okay.
It's everyday activities and crafts that reflect the Jewish experience and traditions and culture, crafts and food. There's a nosh section, so some family recipes in that. It was a lot of fun to put together.
What age level is that aimed at?
I would say it's 2, 3, and up. Kids, families, young people.
So crafts and recipes that are simple enough that young kids can participate in them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a pickle book, which is highly inspired by my grandparents who owned a deli.
Is that a board book?
It is, and it's a shaped board book, so it's shaped like a pickle.
Shaped like a pickle?
It is, and
Awesome.
it's what's very exciting is as we were working on it, we saw there's definitely a pickle trend happening. We were working on the book and we were watching it happen. We're like, oh my gosh, this book is going to happen when people are really into pickles. So it's very exciting.
I did not realize there was a pickle trend. There's a banana menorah trend. There was actually more than one book this Hanukkah about banana menorahs.
That's awesome.
But I did not realize there was a pickle trend.
I mean, I've always enjoyed pickles, but they're definitely having a moment. So go pickles.
How fun. Where can listeners learn more about your work?
I have a website, SuzyUltman.com is probably the best place to go, and it'll route you to my books and my products and all of that stuff.
When you mention products, we've talked a little bit about it, but what kind of products do you actually offer?
Everything from toys to stationery, accessories. I've got a little really cute Jewish star necklace that I created, a range of fun Suzy things.
Suzy Ultman, thank you so much for speaking with me, and Mazel Tov again on your Sidney Taylor Book Award.
Oh my gosh, it was such a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, this is Diana Harmon Asher. I am the author of Sidetracked, Upstaged, and my new book, Trouble Finds Evie Lefkowitz. And I'll be joining you soon on the Book of Life podcast. I'd like to dedicate my episode to the memory of my 1st and 5th grade teachers, Eleanor Akers and Helen Johnston. I put them both in my acknowledgments for Sidetracked, which was my first book. And when I found out they were alive and well, which was a surprise, I sent them each a copy. They were thrilled, and we were all excited to reconnect. We exchanged letters. Neither one of them used email. And I visited with them They remembered every detail, every student they ever had. Helen and Eleanor were lifelong partners. They lived together for 60, 70 years. They were both in their 90s when I reconnected. So they passed away within a day of each other, almost exactly a year ago today. I see them as perfect examples of how much we owe our teachers and what a difference they can make in our lives. And I'd like to dedicate this to them.
Say hi to Heidi at 561-206-2473 or bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for free to bookoflifepodcast.substack.com to get show notes, transcripts, Jewish Kidlit news, and calls to action right in your inbox. If you'd like to receive the bonus Share Your Shelf segments, you can upgrade to a paid subscription. The Book of Life is also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our 20-year back catalog is online at bookoflifepodcast.com. Want to read the books featured on the show? Buy them through bookshop.org/shop/bookoflife to support the podcast and independent bookstores at the same time. The Book of Life is sponsored by the Association of Jewish Libraries, the leading authority on Judaic librarianship. Learn more at jewishlibraries.org. Additional support comes from Congregation B'nai Israel of Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org. AJL also sponsors our sister podcast, Nice Jewish Books, a show about Jewish fiction for adults. Stick around past these credits and you might hear a promo for the latest episode of Nice Jewish Books. Our theme music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band. Thanks for listening, and happy reading!
Every year, the Association of Jewish Libraries Fiction Award Committee scours the literary world for books with significant Jewish content. They look for extraordinary writing, accurate depictions of Jewish life in all its diversity, and contributions to the field of Jewish literature. This month, I am excited to speak with Rena Citron, the chair of that committee, about the 2026 award winners for Best Jewish Fiction published in 2025. Find me at jewishlibraries.org/nicejewishbooks.